Hey everyone, welcome back to Rare Wisdom, the channel where we dive deep into the forgotten treasures of human history. If you love learning about untold stories, rare ideas, and thinkers who shaped the world, you're in the right place. Today, we're kicking off an exciting 10-part series exploring Islamic philosophers in ancient history. Now, when we say Islamic philosophers, we're not just talking about religious figures. We're diving into brilliant minds, scientists, mathematicians, doctors, and yes, philosophers, who laid the intellectual groundwork for many of the ideas we take for granted today. In this first episode, we're setting the stage. We'll talk about what made the Islamic Golden Age such a unique time in world history, why philosophy flourished, and how this legacy still impacts us today. So grab a cup of tea or coffee, sit back, and let's explore this incredible era together. Let's begin by understanding what we mean by the Islamic Golden Age. Historians usually place it between the 8th and 14th centuries, though its roots go a bit earlier and its influence stretches far beyond that timeline. It all started with the rise of the Abbasid Caliphate around 750 CE, which moved the capital to Baghdad. This wasn't just a change of address, it became a turning point for the entire Islamic world. Baghdad turned into a cultural and intellectual hub. Imagine it as the Silicon Valley or Renaissance Florence of the medieval world. The famous Bait al-Hikmah, or House of Wisdom, was established there, an academic institution where scholars from all backgrounds came together to translate and build upon Greek, Persian, Indian, and even Chinese knowledge. This wasn't just about preserving texts. Muslim thinkers didn't simply translate. They interpreted, challenged, and expanded on what they read. They asked big questions. What is the nature of reality? Can reason and faith coexist? How should we live a good life? Sounds familiar? That's philosophy in action. What's fascinating is how open and interdisciplinary this era was. Thinkers weren't confined to one field. A philosopher could also be a doctor, an astronomer, a math. Let's take a moment to bust a myth. Many people think the Islamic world was isolated from Europe during the Middle Ages. Not true. The knowledge generated in the Islamic Golden Age flowed into Europe, especially through Spain and Sicily. This laid the groundwork for the European Renaissance. Names like Avicenna and Averroes were read and debated by Christian philosophers like Thomas Aquinas. Another important point, Islamic philosophy wasn't monolithic. It had multiple schools of thought. The rationalists like the Mu'tazilites, a dynamic, the mystics like the Sufis, the synthesizers like Al-Farabi, and the critics like Al-Ghazali. Each brought a different flavor, and their debates pushed the boundaries of thought. Why does all this matter today? Because the questions they asked are timeless. What is the role of reason in faith? Can science and religion coexist? What is the good life? These thinkers showed that engaging deeply with these questions wasn't just possible, it was essential. In this series, we'll meet 10 of the most influential philosophers of the Islamic world. Each episode will focus on one thinker, their life, their ideas, and their legacy. From Al-Kindi, the philosopher of the Arabs, to Ibn Sina, Avicenna, who revolutionized medicine and metaphysics. From Al-Farabi, the second teacher after Aristotle, to Averroes, the commentator who brought Aristotle back to Europe. We'll also look at Al-Ghazali, the great skeptic turned mystic, Ibn Rushd, the bold defender of reason, Ibn Khaldun, the father of sociology, and Suhrawardi, the master of illuminationist philosophy. Each of these figures will open a new door for us, into worlds where philosophy was not just abstract theory, but a way of life. Before we wrap up today, here's something to ponder. Why do you think this rich philosophical heritage is often overlooked in modern history books? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. That's it for today's episode. In our next segment, we'll dive into the life and mind of Al-Kindi, the first true Islamic philosopher, who boldly said that truth belongs to no one culture. Don't miss it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share it with fellow wisdom seekers, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes in this series. Until next time, stay curious and stay wise. If you've been following our series on Islamic philosophers in ancient history, you know we're exploring the incredible minds that shaped not just the Islamic world, but human thought as a whole. Today, we're diving into our second segment, and it's all about the man often called the first philosopher of the Arabs, Al-Kindi. So, who was Al-Kindi, and why does he matter? Well, imagine being the first person to try to bridge the ancient Greek philosophical tradition with Islamic thought. That was Al-Kindi. He was a pioneer in every sense of the word. His full name was Abu Yusuf Yaqub ibn Ishaq al-Kindi, and he lived during the 9th century in what was then the flourishing Abbasid Caliphate. Born in Kufa, Iraq, Al-Kindi came from an aristocratic Arab family. His father was the governor of Kufa, which gave Al-Kindi access to a solid education and powerful intellectual circles. But Al-Kindi didn't just coast on privilege. He pursued knowledge with passion and curiosity. He was eventually invited to Baghdad, the intellectual capital of the Islamic Golden Age, where he joined the House of Wisdom. Yes, the very place we talked about in our first episode. What made Al-Kindi truly remarkable was his ability to take Greek philosophical ideas, especially those of Aristotle and Plato, and interpret them within an Islamic framework. Think about it. This was a time when Greek philosophy could be seen as foreign, even threatening. But Al-Kindi boldly argued that truth is truth, no matter where it comes from. That's a big deal. It meant opening the door for intercultural intellectual exchange. Let's talk about some of his works. Al-Kindi wrote over 260 treatises, though sadly only a fraction of those survive today. His subjects? Philosophy, logic, mathematics, music, astronomy, medicine, psychology, you name it. This guy was like a one-man university. In philosophy, Al-Kindi believed that reason and revelation could work together. He didn't see philosophy as a threat to religion, but as a means to understand it more deeply. He believed that through reason, humans could arrive at truths that complemented divine teachings. This approach would later influence major figures like Avicenna and Averroes. One of his key philosophical concerns was the nature of the soul and its relationship to the body. Drawing on Platonic ideas, he argued that the soul is immortal and that our true goal should be intellectual and moral purification. Sounds a lot like that's the beauty of this intellectual era, the blending of ideas across cultures and religions. Al-Kindi was also deeply interested in science and medicine. He wrote about optics and vision, where he anticipated later ideas about how light and the eye interact. In medicine, he emphasized empirical observation and rational diagnosis, which laid the groundwork for evidence-based medical practice. Oh, and did I mention he also tried to scientifically prove the therapeutic effects of music? That's right. In his treatise on music, he discussed how different rhythms and melodies could impact the emotions and even physical health. So yes, your favorite playlist is therapy? Al-Kindi would totally approve. But it wasn't all easy for him. Not everyone in the Abbasid court loved how much he leaned on Greek philosophy. There were rival factions, and at one point he even fell out of favor politically. His library was reportedly confiscated, and he faded into relative obscurity by the end of his life. Yet his legacy lived on, both in the Islamic world and in Europe, where his translated works influenced medieval Christian thinkers. So why should we remember Al-Kindi today? Because he teaches us that philosophy doesn't belong to one culture or time period. He shows us the value of seeking knowledge wherever it may be found, across borders, languages, and beliefs. In a world that often feels divided, Al-Kindi reminds us that the quest for truth is a universal human pursuit. Before we wrap up, here's a question for you. If you had to explain the idea that truth has no cultural owner to someone today, how would you do it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you'd bring Al-Kindi's wisdom into our modern world. Thanks for watching today's episode of Rare Wisdom. Next time, we'll meet Al-Farabi, the man known as the second teacher after Aristotle. We'll explore his vision of a virtuous society and how he merged philosophy with politics. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until then, keep asking questions and stay wise.